How's it going, everybody? I figured I'll just, settle in for this video because it might be a long one. I was asked a question the other day and it just popped into my mind, and I figured I better answer it now or I'll probably forget. Somebody in the comments section asked, I guess maybe I should leave and look it up before I make a video about it, but I think I get the point. It was to the effects of, what are my beliefs on the afterlife? Or, not necessarily that, but the universe and the origins and creation and all of this. And I guess that it's not something that I really address too often. At least not in a long time. But in past years, I've talked about it a lot. And it got me thinking to why I don't talk about it anymore. I've learned a lot about people on YouTube. I've learned a lot about what moves people and what upsets people. And I got to admit, when I was a noob to the internet and a noob to YouTube, I said things to people that could be hurtful. Not to be a dick, but usually in retaliation to somebody being an asshole. In other words, I didn't know how to use tact and handle myself. And I think we all had that mistake on the internet. I don't think there's anybody out there who didn't say something stupid without thinking it through. And furthermore, plenty of people never learned that lesson, and they continue to act like children. Have these little, troll sessions when you're fucking 40 years old, and, it's ludicrous. But as far as what I believe, I've discussed things with a lot of Christians in the past about my beliefs, and I've been told so many times that I'm wrong for what I believe or what I think, that it's perhaps a defensive mechanism that I've just backed away from what everybody else believes. I'd like to use this parable about the man who builds his house on rock and the man who builds it on sand, or sandy ground. And I used this just the other day when somebody asked me a question. Said, two men build their houses. One decides to take his time and do it on this rocky bluff because he knows it's secure and his home will be, finished properly. And winter's coming soon. Both men start building their homes. The first man uses cheap material, puts it in the easiest spot because it's already laid out. It's easy to scour the sand out, lay down a few boards, and be done with it. And winter comes around, and the first man's still working on his house, and his family is living in a little tent, and the other man's laughing at him, saying, you should have built down here. And then after winter, the spring comes, and a flood comes and washes away the other man's house, and the first man's just putting the last nail in his, and he invites the other man up to live with his family, to stay in his house. Basically, the idea is that he's not going to scold the other man for being an idiot. He knows he's a dumbass. He built his house in a dumb spot. And he's not going to say ha-ha just because the other man said ha-ha to him. The idea is to help your brethren, and hopefully that your friend the next time will be able to build a house in a little better spot. But sometimes people are stupid and they keep building their house in the same damn spot. And then, well, I guess we know where that goes. And I guess I've spent 3.5 minutes, 4 minutes here, and I haven't even really got to what I believe, and that's probably because I've explained it better so far than I could any other way. What I believe is that each person's foundation has to be very strong for what they believe in order for them to carry it with them through their entire life. I've seen people who have a midlife crisis where they all of a sudden become religious, and people who are religious their whole lives and have a midlife change where they become non-religious or atheist. And often these people are the most strongly opposed to what they used to be. An ex-Christian will always be very outspoken against Christianity for the first couple of years at least, the ones that I've met. And those who find Christianity will tell everyone else how they need to join. It's like the man who just quit smoking. Everybody else needs to do it. And through observing the behaviors of man, I've seen that, like the man who quit smoking, the man who has a religion wants to drag people into it with him, not for bad reasons, but because he wants others to be happy, like he is. And a Christian who sees others may think, well, if they only found Jesus, they would be truly happy. But often they don't really believe that. The ones that I've talked to and got really down to it, they're not happy. And when we break it down and get to why they believe what they believe, they say, because I want to be happy in the afterlife. That brings me to the first phase of what I believe, which is that if there is an afterlife, it has nothing to do with being human. And I got into Buddhism for a little while, and it wasn't that I was a Buddhist, because Buddhism is a way of life, not really a religion. Anyone who takes it as a religion doesn't get it. I consider myself to be, if anything, Zen. Okay? Not any particular structured Zen Buddhism, but the type of Zen Buddhism that hangs off the edge of a cliff, or is at the end of a pencil, or you pick a metaphor. It doesn't matter. Zen is a joke. It allows you to... The best description I heard of Zen is if there was a book of Zen, a true book of Zen, you'd open it up and it would be blank pages and you would fill in the story as you go along. What it is accepting your lot in life, that you're a human, that you're flawed, but that flaw is what makes you great, and that you can work on those things, that you understand who you are is what makes you a great human. And learning to work on yourself and laugh at your false attributes or your negativities or your delusions is what's important. For me, learning to laugh at my delusions was very important. It allowed me to see that when I was younger, I never had a religion. My parents were not religious. I had no religious upbringing. I didn't really know anything about religion, except for a couple of my friends had Christian families and they had to go to church. And I would just like, well, whatever. They can't play on Sunday. That sucks for them. But not one of my friends that went to church enjoyed it. And it was something that kind of really, I never considered, I guess, until just now. It would always be something bad. And my thought is, if you're going to worship your God, shouldn't it be something good? But no, how many kids really like church? I'm sure there's some out there, but it's kind of like the kids that like being in pageants. It's like little girls that like being in pageants. No, their parents convince them because they want to live vicariously through their kids. Sorry to bring that up, but pageants just disgust me. Little girls dressed up like whores. It's just, those parents, shame on them. There's nothing good about that at all. Absolutely nothing. It just makes people shallow. But the same thing with religion. People who force their kids to go to church, and then the kids build a resistance. I remember I had this friend Mike, and when we were growing up, he'd have to go to church on Sunday. I stayed the night at his house one Friday night, or Saturday night, obviously. And in the morning, the usual, his mom screams up the stairs, because he lived in kind of the remodeled attic. She's like, Michael, it's time to go to church. And he goes, fuck no, and he rolled back over. I'll never forget it, and that was the last time he went to church. Later on in life, when he got kind of sick, I remember we started talking more about religion, and that was my first glimpse of somebody who had faced his own mortality and seen that he's sick, and seen how it kind of changed him spiritually. And from then on, I was really interested in how people are affected by that spiritual movement that comes from having something bad happen. You know, something like 80% of people who lose a loved one see or hear that person within the first 2 weeks or month, and most people don't ever report it. They might see him in a dream, but they might see him actually as a hallucination or actually hear their voice. It's a very normal thing, because our brains create this because we want to believe that our loved ones have passed on and that they're still caring about us and aware and looking over us. And I've wrestled with this like a lot of people. Like, how arrogant of us as humans to think that there's loved ones looking over us. I mean, don't they have better things to do? And if they are looking, what are they looking with? I'd start getting very philosophical. Are they using eyeballs? Is it just a feeling that they know? And then you start learning about how really everything's just energy, and I got into that whole idea of chakras, but I never really bought into the whole New Age thing completely. There was always something that really rubbed me the wrong way about New Age beliefs. You start talking about chakras and auras, and I started learning about hallucinations and trying to say, how many of these people are deluded? I mean, when somebody tells you they're channeling from the Pleiadians, and they get into it takes into this astral type realm, and I don't know what to think. I have practiced lucid dreaming, and it's an amazing experience. I used to fly, and it happened to me about a week ago. The first time I've had a semi-lucid dream in a long time, because I don't try anymore. And I remember in my dream being like, oh, I haven't flown in a long time. And the thing is, I can only fly low to the ground. And I understand the metaphorical, root of that. It's because, I feel trapped. And I do feel trapped sometimes, because especially right now with the situation with the Kratom ban, I'm going to be financially, ruined, devastated, at least for a while, until I figure out what to do. And that's fine. On the outside, on the surface, I feel totally content with that. But on the inside, I can tell that my emotions have a different idea of what's going on. And when it comes to religion, it's the same way. You can tell yourself that you feel a certain way about God on the outside, or you believe in Jesus. But unless you really do in your heart, and you truly believe something 100%, then you'll constantly be trying to convince others that you're right, or convince yourself you're right, rather. So here I am 11 minutes in, and I still haven't said, I guess, what I really believe. I believe that the universe is a song. I don't understand who or what or when the player of this song exists, in what reality, if any reality. This is the only thing we know. The universe that we see around us. We can hypothesize about what's outside this universe. We can hypothesize about what's outside the solar system, the galaxy. We can look at other galaxies. Then we can look through telescopes and see even farther galaxy. When Hubble looked through the telescope the first time, and through the long range, and realized that what he thought were stars were actually other galaxies, can you imagine that feeling? Wow, that's big. But to imagine that all these galaxies might be one giant spiral arm of another galaxy, and it goes beyond, 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 and you start asking yourself, gosh, the Christian God really is pretty small. You know what I mean? When you look at the vastness of how big things really are, and then how tiny things can get, and you try to picture any one of the religious, vengeful, or happy gods, none of them make sense, and you realize that they're all metaphors. That no God would concern himself of man's affairs. No God would send a man to hell to burn for eternity, merely because he coveted his neighbor's goods or wife. These are things that we've used, these metaphors, to build a society, to try to say, what should humans do and not do? And in that, I'm not trying to offend anyone, because I understand, I know a lot of Christians and have a lot of Christian viewers, and if you feel strong enough about what you believe, then of course you won't, you'll listen to what I'm saying and think, okay, I don't agree, but I can respect that. Each person has their own opinion. And there will always be a few that can't, that have to tell people that they're wrong, and that's why religion rubs me the wrong way. It's the fact that anytime you have to tell others that what they believe is wrong, when they're just living a good life, there's something wrong with that. If everyone else is wrong, then you're wrong. This is human reality. This is human nature as I see it. A few people cannot just be correct and everybody else doomed. But if people want to believe that, then they're welcome to. So my belief is that the universe came into existence through this, I don't know, whatever, I'm not going to try to explain what it is, but the reality that I'm trying to get at is that it exists, and it may be going somewhere or it may not, but we're living in it. And if there's a God, if there's a being, then humans are small potatoes. We've only been here for a couple million years. We've only been conscious and completely aware for 100,000 years or so, if that. And it's really easy to look and say, there's a religious root for everything. But it's also easy to look and say, that we are here by chance, but not as... that life doesn't just pop out of nothingness, but rather that life is just the default mode of the universe. So anytime the right conditions are met, anytime there's the right temperatures, life can form. Life forms in the hydrothermal vents down in the ocean. Once we realize that, we know that it can grow anywhere in the entire galaxy. The idea isn't whether life can exist elsewhere, in our solar system even. It's whether or not it formed there. And if we can prove that life forms spontaneously, like we believe, chains and amino acids, and next thing you know, you've got these cells, it's a pretty big leap to go from life to life from nothing. So my thought is that there is a song being played that is somewhat like the blueprint for life. And I don't mean that literally. It's not really sound waves. It's the only way I can explain what I believe. As for, do we have any purpose after we die, or do we go anywhere? You know, I listened to thousands of hours of Manly P. Hall lectures. He was a firm believer in reincarnation, and he had me pretty well convinced for a while that there was a lot to it. And I'm still not in denial of reincarnation, but I'm in denial of one person reincarnating into one body. There are some amazing stories. There's this Reincarnation Institute. They've done all these, all the organization of these various studies that they've done, where they've, asked kids questions. They've been able to tell you where they were born. One particular case of a kid who was a pilot during World War II from Hawaii, and it's just a really amazing story, and one that isn't bullshitted. This is a well-known, documented case. It's just out of the blue, some weird thing happens, and a kid remembers a previous life. That is like, what? It flies in the face of everything. It's not like saying that there's an invisible God. It's saying that, no, there's truly a connection between this boy and a dead pilot from World War II. So the more you look into it, the more you find that it seems that some people are more than one person reincarnated. Some people claim that two different people are both the reincarnation of the same person, which leads me to believe that if your energy is powerful enough, it can carry on. Some people call it the ether. I guess a lot of people might consider it dark matter. It's the framework of which everything that exists within, if that makes sense, which it doesn't even to me. This is why I don't talk about these things. Over the years, I've realized I can't explain what I think God is. I do not think God is a person with a beard in the sky, or that humans are the pinnacle of God's creation, or that the Earth's 6,000 years old. But I also don't believe that everything came here by chance, and that evolution is just some random mutation that just happens to happen because of local events that suit, the random mutation works, and therefore it reproduces. To an extent, that's true. To an extent, that's what's going on. But I think it's a combination of all things. I think that there really is a blueprint for life that we just don't understand. And it may lay just right out of our reach within this dimension, this framework, this web. But all I can do is speculate. And so I can say that I honestly feel it. And when I'm out in nature and I'm trying to commune with the forest and nature, I can feel it. I'm led to the right places. And I feel like if you put trust in life, it takes you to great places. And so that to me means that the universe is conscious and it is aware. And it does respond to your needs, so long as you have faith. So religion, in its essence, is at least halfway there. That if you have faith and you firmly believe, then you can achieve anything. I think that what religion has wrong is you don't have to have faith and firmly believe in a God. You just have to have faith and firmly believe that you are able. And those are my ideas. But you also have to be humbly subservient in a way to the life that you live within. In other words, you have to give respect to what you would call the Father, but it's everything. It's walking out in the woods and recognizing the beauty of a tree or an insect. And, it's something that's difficult to express. So I've tried my best, but anyway, I'll talk to y'all later. Have a wonderful day, and